Hello YouTube, I'm Vince White and I'm an employment attorney. On this channel, we answer publicly posted questions from YouTube users, getting folks the answer they need from an employment attorney. Quick note, my cough is terrible today. Fresh back from Mexico, just want to get you a video out. It's just bad, so I'm going to mute. Sorry about that. I'm just going to mute when I have to cough, and I want to get this video out because it's been a while, right? We have a question here from YouTube user, The Peter Dislike Show, and BT Dubs. If you don't like the cough, I get it. I'm muting it, but you don't have to watch the video, right? Free video is free. If you don't like free video, don't consume free video. It's simple, right? So just a suggestion. But we'll do our best to hit the mute button. Okay, we have a question here from the Peter Dislike Show. I was not sure if Peter was trolling me or not. It's okay. I'm going to answer the question like it's sincere. If it was trolling me, I applaud you for trolling me. But either way, we're going to do our best. The question is as follows. I had a lovely time in Mexico. It did not agree with my cough. The question, is dietary preference a protected characteristic? You may have meant protected class. Same idea. We're on the same page. So, right off the bat, easy to think about, keeping kosher. That's a religious accommodation for your dietary, well, it's not preference, from your dietary eating needs as set out by your faith. Halal. Same idea, right? These are certainly protected. I will note, I wouldn't really describe kosher or halal to be necessarily a preference. They are a requirement of one's faith, although certainly I myself have found that I occasionally do have a preference for halal meat, right? It's just really well handled. And kosher, in certain circumstances, can result in better handling of food, depending on where you are in the world, right? So, also a consideration. I don't follow either of those faiths. This neither is a tenet of my belief system, but I could prefer either tenet for eating, right? So, generally speaking, if it's my preference, not protected. If it is required by your faith, protected under federal law. But there's a little bit more to that, right? Let's say you're keeping kosher. Let's say you're keeping kosher for your faith. What do you really need? My goodness, I apologize. What do you really need from your employer to keep kosher? You can bring your kosher meal. How often do we have employers that provide the meal? Not that often. Now, if the employer is going to provide a cafeteria or some kind of meal option, at that point, there should be a kosher option. Get to stay in line with our example, right? But I think all of this misses your actual question, which is a dietary preference a protected characteristic? Keyword preference. You want to eat a certain way. Now, that could be anything from veganism to carnivore. Paleo, I don't even know what people do anymore. Probably not. Probably not protected. But I can't say definitely not. And here's why. There is a thing called a personal belief accommodation. Right? There's this weird line that exists in our system where we recognize faiths of one. Right? We recognize fundamentally that, like, a big religion That's easy. That's Catholicism. That's Judaism. That's Islam. That's Buddha. That's, Buddhism. There's a whole bunch, right? The Zoroastrian, right? There's so many faiths, right? Wicca. And so many more. Animism. In various forms in different parts of the world. Shamanism. So many options. All of those are a little easier to substantiate. Generally, they have teachings. Often they have writings. They have kind of guiding figures or a leading body or a leading individual. There are commandments and rules and guidance and interpretation of those rules often in these faiths, right? There's just a lot. There's a lot for us to deal with when we're arriving at what is and is not a required religious accommodation. But let's admit, I'm Catholic. Is my faith any more legitimate than someone who walked into a field last week and said, I've come to a great and spiritual understanding of this field. I am one with the land, and I will spend my life improving and serving this land and protecting it, as I am now a Druidic warden, which is something different than the Druidic faith itself. I'm not belittling the Druids. It's just something new. And I happen to foolishly use the name Druid in it, which is like an actual faith. So let's remove Druid, just a warden of the forest, we'll call it. That's the name of your faith of one. You have one adherent. It is you. You're in your field. And you, as a member of the faith of one, called the Wardens of the Forest, have decided to be, you only eat meat. You're a carnivore. You call it living the path of the wolf, which I don't think necessarily makes sense, because I think technically wolves might be omnivores, but neither here nor there. You feel carnivore is what's right for you. Or veganism. It could be either one. I don't care. Whichever one annoys the viewer the most. Go with that. Pick your own adventure. Now, your faith is a little harder to establish. And we're all kind of aware that you could just make your faith up out of thin air because you want a religious exemption. So it is more difficult to substantiate and accommodate than a larger faith. But also, by the same token, why shouldn't your faith be viewed as legitimate? And we see a tension in the law here. Now, over the past 5 years, we did see personal belief exemptions, personal belief accommodations, not do well in the case law at all. There was a bunch of people who were like, I've declared that I have a faith of one, I have an exemption from recent mandates, and so on and so forth, and we're trying to talk between the lines here so we don't get canceled or, demonetized. I'll be frank with you, courts were, not thrilled with personal belief accommodations. And they were not really that protective of small or singular faiths with one or very few adherents. But technically that is a thing. The protections have been eroded, but it hasn't disappeared. It's still fundamentally a tension in the law where you deciding that you're a warden of the forest and that you'll commune with your field and your wildflowers and eat only carnivore or vegan or whatever it is. What makes it any less legitimate than some of the wild stuff bigger faiths do? Right? I'm Catholic. We run around eating wafers of bad bread and say we're eating somebody's body. I'm not making fun of Catholics, but is that more wild than declaring yourself a warden of the forest? Is it less wild? I don't know. If you're gonna play comparative faith, It's all about the same to me. So at that point, got yourself a faith of one, a personal belief system, and you want to have your required meal plan, carnivore, vegan, whatever, as part of your faith. Okay. So let's look at your job. What is actually required? Well, if they provide meals, do they have to accommodate you? Maybe. There's also like issues like, listen, if you're working on I don't know, like an oil rig, you're in a 3-month rotation, or you're up in the Arctic working some kind of, I don't know, fueling station. I mean, I think there's an argument that they need to supply meals that conform with the tenets of your faith. How strong is that argument? Case law says, but it's there, and it's not an automatic loss. They have to hear you out. 9 times out of 10, you lose. But I wouldn't go so far to say as 99 times out of 100, you lose, right? So it's there. It's real, right? But again, we've gotten into something tied to a faith. Also, listen, if you need a special meal for your disability as a medical accommodation, super protected. So protected. The most protected in many ways. The ADA is right there for you. If you need breaks to snack because you're diabetic, if you have terrible acid reflux like I do, and you need a low acid diet, or the diet for high blood pressure, all disabilities, all medical accommodations, all things you can enforce, right? But again, I'm talking around your actual question, which is a dietary preference a protected characteristic? Probably what you mean is, does it put you in a protected class? If it's just a preference, nah, not a thing. They don't have to care. You can be like, I have a preference, a strong preference for veganism. Cool. And your employer can be like, how does it feel to want? And you're just like, what? That's so rude. And they're like, yeah, but we don't care about you that much. You can eat or not eat. Good luck. Also, most job sites don't supply meals, so that's another issue. Like, how much do a normal job site have to accommodate you? Probably most, not at all, right? Because they're not in charge of your meals. Bring your lunch according to your needs. You need snacks, bring snacks. They have to give you time to have the snacks, but, it's not on them necessarily to feed you. Kind of plays out real similar to like you getting to work, right? Once you get to work, they have to accommodate you for your disability, your religion. But in terms of the commute, well, that's generally going to be on you in most jurisdictions. Kind of the same thing here. If they supply meals, they're kind of on the hook to grant you accommodations. Although maybe, again, not for your personal preference. But if they don't supply meals, what do they really have to do with it? Bring your own meal. Bring a meal that you like. Bring the meal that meets your religious requirements, your medical requirements, what have you. Anyways, this has been a long and winding answer. People are going to complain. But I'll get to the final. If you're just like, hey, I have a personal preference for eating vegan. No, not protected. I have a personal preference for eating carnivore. No. Paleo, all the rest. No. If it's religious, much more complex. If it's medical, motivated, much more complex. Which is just a preference. Any jurisdiction I'm aware of, doesn't mean that's every jurisdiction. Talk with local counsel. But every jurisdiction I'm aware of, it's a simple no. Your employer does not have to accommodate you. Is what it is. Don't shoot the messenger, or do. I don't really care. Give me the thumbs down. But I didn't make the rules. I'm just telling you what they are. You ask, I answer, then you get mad. All right. I hope this was helpful. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Share the channel so it may grow. It's good to be back. Take care, everybody.